Good morning, folks, and welcome to this week's edition of the Elevenses series, brought to you by the Google Partners team. My name is Huey Dezulaweta. I'm an account strategist here on the UK agency team, and joining me today is my colleague.
Hi guys, I'm Ross, and I'm also an account strategist on the UK agency team.
So folks, today we're going to be looking at AdWords store visits, measuring online to offline. And now, for many of you, this will be nothing new. Store visits were a feature we released 2 years ago. What I really wanted to share with you today are the exciting new developments that have taken place to the tool and to the feature. And really, these are best summarized by the recent blog on the AdWords blog spot about 6 weeks ago now, just charting some of these. But we'll be going through those today and looking at these new developments and how they're relevant for you as retailers, as advertisers and marketeers, and how you can get the most out of them. So we'll be looking at that. But firstly, for those of you who don't know and who aren't in the know, store visits, put very simply, is when a user clicks on one of your search ads and then within 30 days visits one of your stores. We can then report back on that and attribute it to the keyword, to the campaign in AdWords. Very simple breakdown. We'll get into the methodology in a bit as well. But firstly, Ross, for the culinary enthusiasts out there, for the gastronomers, you will know that today is International Baking Day.
Indeed it is.
So look, I think the least we can do is to rise to the occasion and to bake something up for you here. You've got 15 minutes with us on the sofa getting into this.
Yeah, you really took a whisk with those puns there, I would say.
Yeah. So we would be your AdWords equivalent of Mary Berry and Paul Hollywood for the next 15 minutes. Ross, on that point, what's your favorite cake?
I'd have to go with Oreo cheesecake.
Good. Victoria Sponge for me.
Victoria Sponge.
So look, without further ado, the store visits in AdWords. Ross, how would you say they've come about? Why are they important to advertisers and store owners?
I would say they are so important because 89% of commerce is still happening online.
Okay.
And that's a number that I was quite surprised with. I thought it probably would have been less. But yeah, we can find 89% is online. But one thing that has shifted and one thing that has continued to change is the customer journey.
Okay.
So if we take a look from 1999 to 2017, there's a massive online presence there for research and consideration. People have more options to go online before, and there's so much more things out there that they can kind of, look around with. So there's that. It's all about kind of getting in front of the advertiser at the beginning, whereas before that wasn't really the case.
Sure.
One thing that we've seen is that 49 to 62% of online sales do have a digital influence. Again, so although kind of the pure retail sales, they're nearly a thing of the past. You can be pretty confident that if someone's bought a pair of sunglasses or even a new wallet, there's been some sort of online touch point there beforehand.
And so this is a Deloitte study. I think what's interesting, for sure, it's quite a big range, that 49, 62%. But I think the key takeaway for me here is the majority of people now go on digital. And whether maybe it's in store, they're actually on their mobile browsing as they're in your actual location.
Yeah. That's a trend that we've kind of seen kind of come to the fore a lot recently. And that brings us on to our next slide, which is all about the I want to go moments.
Yeah.
So like if I was to take one thing from the slide, it's mobile. I want to go moments, mobile and store visits, they're big.
And so we all know this, as connectivity improves, as we move to 4G to 5G, and as our devices get bigger and quicker, we're all guilty of this behavior. I mean, forgive the marketing speak there, but we are on the move on our mobile looking to purchase.
Exactly. It's the people that are kind of walking around, maybe they're not sure of their location and they're just trying to seek more localized information.
Yeah. And so really it's that merging of the high streets and digital.
Yeah, exactly. And we've seen a massive explosion of a thing we call near me searches. So the example in the graph or the chart there, Burberry near me. So it's people that are kind of, like I said, they're not really sure of the localized kind of locations of the store. So they're trying to source that information. So a massive explosion near me searches. There's a huge market out there for advertisers as, people, we want to make sure that we're kind of supplying our goods for the people that are searching for it.
Yeah.
There's a huge market there, and the people that are kind of searching in that moment, whether they're looking to buy products or, looking for information, 76% of those people that do kind of search for local information, they will go into the shop later that day.
And so just moving on there, if you just touch on that point there, the near me searches, this is, I find incredible, that stat there.
Oh, that was a quote that I really enjoyed. So think of mobile as a magnet that draws people into your stores. So I think that kind of encompasses everything we've been trying to say in one quote, basically. And you can see that Google trend there of the near me searches, it's massive.
It's exponential.
Exponential.
And it'll be interesting to see where that will be next year or the year after.
Exactly.
it's fairly typical. That was me looking for Joe Malone for my mum, buying some smelly fragrances. But, it's behavior we see the whole time now.
100%. And like we said before, 80% of that growth is coming from mobile as well. So, that's where we're kind of the priorities are.
And so really, I guess it brings us on to store visits.
Yeah, exactly.
And the challenge and the opportunity that they present to retailers, to people who have stores. And just to put it simply here, the 3 steps of store visits: a user signed in and sharing their location history with Google, clicks on an ad, they then visit your store within 30 days. And then from that data set, from that group of people, we then extrapolate for the rest of the population who haven't got their location history shared with Google, and we report back to you this data of how many people, which campaigns drove store visits, very simply put. And just to debunk it a bit, just to dissect it a little bit, to get under the hood, there are first some eligibility requirements you have to meet before we get this data. So look, number 1 to 2 to 3, those are the important absolute must meets if you want to use AdWords store visits. You've got to have a Google My Business account linked to your AdWords with 90% of locations verified. Those location extensions have then got to be active on your campaigns. And then the final thing, Ross, that catches people out, you've got to have sufficient back-end data. That means you've got to have enough data, enough store visits for us, Google, to report confidently that this occurred. And so you've got to meet our 99% accuracy confidence threshold, reach that privacy threshold, and then we'll supply that data. And so really steps 4 and 5, I wanted to add in there because they're not absolute necessities for store visits, but they are important if you want to reach that back-end data. You should advisably have 30 locations, stores or more in your Google My Business account. And you should also have a pretty high click volume, around 100,000. In the last 2 months or so. So those are some pointers on how to get this data if you're not already using it.
But it's important to note that they have become a little looser with the restrictions, so it has opened up to a lot more advertisers.
And that's because of the improvement in our tracking and our confidence thresholds as well. So my advice to you would be that last year we opted in automatically a lot of users into store visits. That data could well be in your account if you feel you meet these points. If it isn't in your account, get in touch with your Google account manager, have that conversation, and I'm sure they'll advise you which steps or step you're missing to do. So look, bear that in mind. But moving on a little bit, and I think we glazed over it a bit, a slide or two before. It's not as simple as I've made it out to be. And this map here shows a user journey on an afternoon to the mall. And this shows all the different locations he visited, all the different times, all the different shops. And so I think the challenge you can pick out immediately just viewing this, guys, is there are 2 stark difficulties for Google. Number 1, how do we know which shop is which store is which? What are the precise boundaries, the precise location? And that changes over time. So how are we confident about that? And also, how are we confident about where the device is, what precise location it's in? And so those 2 challenges, let's dive into them a little bit more, how we've addressed each one and how we've come up with store visits. So firstly, the location, the physical world and our understanding of it. And I'd say this is probably what Google's arguably most famous for, is our mapping we've done of Google Maps, of Google Street View, of Google Earth. Huge amount of time and resources being put into that. So we have a pretty intimate understanding now of the physical world, of every high street pretty much, and every street in most of the world now. And that's one of the big changes that's happened recently. We've doubled down on that, and we've done even more geo mapping of countries and of towns and villages. That's paired with Wi-Fi signals. We send out operators to scan environments to get in touch with store Wi-Fi's and store beacons, and just to cross-reference our data. And then also we have users who annotate these locations on Google Maps and who help us as a community effort to cross-check that we've got the locations right. So that's the physical world. How about the precise location? How do we know where that user is? And really, there's a couple of interesting developments. So number 1, there are hundreds of millions of individuals now who share their location history with Google through their mobile device, who have opted into doing that. I'll be one of them. And you can see, Ross, the picture I put up there is the 14th of December last year, my Christmas party I had. Me and Ross, we went to the Oarsman pub at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Then we ended up at a tapas bar. Both true. And then we ended up at my house afterwards. So you can see the steps that you've gone, and it is incredibly accurate. It's a combination of location history, of Wi-Fi, of your search history as well. And And then we cross-reference all of that with the physical world.
Yeah.
And then also, and this is one of the exciting new innovations that we're happy to share with you, we then send out user surveys. And so I'll get a survey occasionally, maybe on my mobile, saying, did you visit La Bodega Tapas? Were you at this address or whatever else? And so again, it's cross-referencing, double-checking, and making sure we're confident there.
Exactly. And the only thing I would have to add is thank God we didn't walk that journey at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Exactly. So from start to finish, step by step, how's that look, folks? Just to map it out once more, so you understand very clearly the methodology we're talking about here. An opted in to his location user clicks on one of your search ads. They then visit one of your stores. In the back end, we have AdWords reporting. We have our GPS and Wi-Fi signals, geometry signals, location history signals taking place. And then the really interesting bit is using our machine learning tools and using our algorithms. We then extrapolate and we say, right, this percentage of people opted in to sharing their location history, did visit my store. We then extrapolate and say, for the percentage of the population who aren't opted into location history, this is the likely amount that also visited. So then we're essentially delivering the data set to you. So a really interesting algorithm. It has to meet our confidence and privacy threshold to pass for us to report on it. And I think that's the key part as well. And so moving on, what's that data then look like, Ross? Take us through for advertisers what this then translates to in their account.
Exactly, yeah. So the nitty gritty stuff once you're in the account, there's a number of different ways you can view store conversions within your account. The first one that you can do is basically probably the easiest one is to just kind of within the all conversions column. So it won't be in the conversions column, but the all conversions column. Okay. And then you can basically go in and just set a simple segment, like you can see in that image there, where you have your online conversions, and then you can clearly see the store visits as well, and then you can optimize accordingly. The next option you can do is to basically create a custom column. So if you're one of those advertisers that likes to see the columns across and you don't want to see it in your all conversions, you want to see a separate one, that's available as well. So you can just go create a custom column. The steps will be included that we can send out. The next thing then, which is really powerful, I think, is the fact that you can optimize the account for store visits at ad group level, keyword level, campaign level. So there's so many different things that you can do throughout the account to make sure that you're finding the keywords, ad groups, and campaigns that are driving these store visits. Because a lot of time, there might not be a direct correlation between the online conversions and also the store visits as well.
And what I think is interesting here is since 2015, Google has reported on 4 billion store visits globally.
Whoa.
It's a big number.
That is a big number. Okay, so there's an example there of the store visit. So how do we kind of optimize our accounts to ensure that we're getting the most out of our store visit strategy? The first thing I would say is kind of like the geo-targeting. So use bid by distance bidding. So if you know someone's really, really close to your like store location, you obviously want to be bidding higher on these as opposed to someone that's maybe, let's say, 20 miles away. They're a more lucrative audience to come in. So we want to make sure that we're targeting them with a little bit more emphasis, I would say. The next thing you can do is to upload your mobile bids. So kind of throughout the presentation, we've seen the importance of mobile and store visits. There's a direct correlation there. So ensuring that our mobile strategy kind of, correlates with that.
Perfect.
And the third point is to kind of add store driving keywords. So that goes back to the kind of the near me searches, anything that you think people will be searching in terms of finding stuff that's localized to them, building out your keyword list to ensure that encompasses that as well.
Yeah.
And then the final point will be to kind of change your ad text, your ad copy to ensure that you are kind of driving people into your store. That can be as simple as adding a call extension so they can just pick up the phone and call you, or, including discounts, in-store discounts or promotions that the only people that will kind of visit your store will get.
So the things I'm taking from here are bid adjustments, mobile, keywords, and ad copy.
Exactly.
And I think, why do you want to get people in stores? Why not just leave them online? I think it takes me back to a great talk I saw by John Roberts, who's CEO of AO.com. And he said, look, once I can get someone into my store, I have the best in-store salesman. They deliver the best customer experience. And also it results in the higher average order value. The basket value in store will be 3 times for them what it is online. So it's about getting them in the doors and getting them engaged.
Exactly. And it goes back to the first slide, 86% of commerce is still happening in store.
Yeah.
So if we can get them there, which is what we're going to go through, then we're on to a winner.
Great.
The next thing, so, is basically pivoting your strategy for in-store keywords. So we've kind of listed out, we won't go into too much detail, but we listed out a number of kind of categories that basically drive in-store kind of conversions.
Yeah.
So kind of optimizing your account to suit that. So maybe if you're a clothes retailer, you know, focusing on the shoes, the coat side of things. But the main thing that I kind of took away from this is that graph there on the screen. So the likes of like toys, entertainment, these are examples of maybe, you know, product groups that wouldn't typically convert well online, but they have a really high store value. So, you know, typically if you were an account manager, you might say, oh, there's no point in kind of putting budget behind our toy section. It's not worth it. But if you actually start importing the store visits, you might find that this is actually, you know, one of the most lucrative kind of things for you.
So you look on the channel and you pivot your strategy.
Exactly, 100%.
Perfectly. And one such retailer who has is if we move on to PetSmart.
PetSmart. So they're an example of kind of advertiser who's done really, really well. 18% of search ad clicks lead to a store visit for them. So I think that's just a perfect example of an advertiser, a really big advertiser that's, you know, capitalized on this I want to go moments, you know, the localized searches.
And so the question I'd ask you watching is, what percentage do you think it could be for you, for your stores? You know, how high could that be? And, you know, particularly for those campaigns, you know, for a brand campaign generic, what would that same percentage look like?
Exactly. And the large portion of this presentation has been about getting people from online to offline, but there's also a really good way of linking all that back in and tying it all together. So when you get people in store, I don't know, just from kind of purchasing, going into shops over Christmas, it's become a lot more evident that, you know, advertisers or like retailers are asking for email addresses when you do go into the shops. I found anyway. So it's about linking that back in. People are kind of going into your store, collecting that data, and then using Google's products in terms of customer match, similar audiences, and tying that bit back in. And then using these great insights to kind of target higher up in the funnel for the likes of GDN and YouTube. So it's that full funnel effect from online to offline, back online, you know, using the insights the whole way around and ensuring that you're completely optimized kind of twice over.
Completely. And if I was a marketer for a company who do have stores, this for me would be ringing alarm bells. This is such an obvious way to do a fully integrated strategy.
Exactly, 100%.
Especially with the similar audiences stuff. Going back to what I said about John Roberts and AO, if we know that people who visit your store do higher basket values and are worth more to you, then we want to find audiences who look just like them, who have similar behaviors.
Exactly.
And so that's where I think the similar audiences, they're now available for search. So that could be also an interesting thing to target. But surely there's an obvious upper funnel strategy there. You know, if you're a retailer and it's Black Friday, use what you've gathered in store, use that data. It's your most valuable asset. And so moving on just from that, how have some of these trailblazers who have adopted store visits, how have they used this data? And it goes back to what we spoke about earlier about omnichannel approaches. Well, look, Macy's in the United States, they now look at total search and, you know, the budget and the return that their campaigns deliver both online and offline. And it's an approach that's also been adopted by one of the biggest car manufacturers, Nissan. And so they now look at, again, that total ROAS. And so what does that mean for you? Surely it's the holy grail, as Mark Palmer, their marketing manager, says there, to know, you know, how much online delivers offline. And to break it down very simply and to show you how you could do this for your stores and for your locations, let's just unpiece it a little bit there. So forgive the numbers, folks, but we can spend just a minute just debunking what this means. So typically, let's look at the online section. Typically, you get X amount of conversions. The average order value online is, say, £30. So for online, you'd say search delivers you X amount. And then for offline, with the store visits data, what you need to look at is what's your typical in-store conversion rate? What's your average order value in store? With those two pieces of information, knowing the store visits we're delivering to you, you can work out how much revenue AdWords is driving for you. So just piece that down. Store visits data, average order value, average in-store conversion rate, and you should get a good, accurate sense of the return that you're getting from digital from your search activity. And so what does that look like? What have Macy's, what have Nissan adopted, and a lot of other big omnichannel retailers? Well, look, they're saying now that actually AdWords delivers both online and offline revenue. And so actually the total revenue is both that £300,000 and the £180,000. And so from their 90K investment, their return on ad spend is significantly higher than they initially thought. And so the conversations you can then do as a marketing manager, you think, right, where's the most appropriate place to put my budgets? How can I start to get maximum performance for my whole business, rather than just looking single channel and forgetting that users now go across device, across channel, and their behavior is very liquid and difficult to touch down.
Exactly. And I would say we would probably recommend that if you are interested in doing store visits, that you 100% include all these in your KPIs. There's no reason why an advertiser wouldn't do that.
Completely. And so, it was a bit of a whistle-stop tour, folks, from the methodologies, the introduction to the baking day gags, but that is store visits. And I think my challenge to you now is, before the next Elevenses episode in 2 weeks, is to go away, think about how you could use this technology for your company. And also, I think the challenge is, once you're eligible and you meet the requirements, get the data and find out what insights it can give you and how it can help you create an omni-channel approach. And I think the big ask is to go omni-channel, to look at this thing total.
Yeah.
The gauntlet's been laid down. Thank you very much for joining us yet again. From all of us here, though, it's bye for now. Cheers.
See you guys.